the big things that we love about traveling is meeting people and spending time with them and getting to know them. And even if we could go and travel to some countries, you just can't, you can't, talk with people over a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, or visit in people's homes, and
Drinking mate.
we can't drink mate like you're supposed to. So I think it's better to wait a little bit longer until we can travel and travel the way we like to travel, meeting people.
So it means, sorry, it means that when you were here in Argentina, you didn't have any chance of visit in any other country besides Buenos Aires and La Roque.
Sorry, we did have plans to go to see. We had plans to go see more of all of Argentina, and then we were going to go to Peru and Ecuador, and then back to Canada. So we had planned
when the pandemic situation started, so you couldn't do anything. And
so we had just got to, we had only been in Argentina for 3 weeks, and we planned to spend 3 months there.
But I would say we did spend January and February in Costa Rica and Panama, and we flew from Panama down to Buenos Aires. But then, as Kathryn said, at 3 weeks, then it was March, and we had to go back.
And apart from that, I know that you had big trouble to be able to go back to your country when the situation started.
It was very hard to get a flight. So we flew on Air Canada, and we booked a flight, and then they were shutting down the buses and trains, and Estella drove us to Gualeguaychú to get the bus, but we had to get back to Buenos Aires really soon before they stopped the buses.
Yes.
So then we waited in a hotel in Buenos Aires for
5 days,
5 days, 6 days, I can't remember. And then our flight got canceled, and so then we had to try and get another flight, and you had to ask permission of the police to leave the hotel. We weren't allowed to leave the hotel until we could prove that we had a flight. So it was a very worrying time.
Yes, we can imagine how much that you were very worried about it, and you know, especially because the situation itself. I mean, nobody knew what was going to happen, and you in that sort of situation, very troublesome. Okay. Okay. Who wants to ask a question now? Yes, Martina.
Hello, how are you? Well, I would like to ask you, what do you like the most about your country, and why?
What do we like the most?
Maybe the best 3 things. Can we do the best 3?
Well, I guess we do love Canada. We're happy to live here, even though we want to travel and see other countries. But we love that Canada is a very peaceful country. It's especially when you compare to the United States, where a lot of people carry guns and there's a lot of gun violence. Canada is very safe and quiet compared to the United States and a lot of other countries.
We both love outdoors, going out camping, canoeing, hiking, biking. And Canada has so much undeveloped space where you can, it can be quiet, and you can, be by yourself if you want, but then it has big cities too that you can, see dance and theater and those kind of things too. So
it's a very beautiful country. I mean, I think part of the reason we liked Argentina was that there's a lot of similarities with Canada. You've got mountains in the west and some plains and prairies, and the east coast is more like, I don't know, maritime, small villages. And we didn't see a lot of Argentina, but in all the reading that I did, it seems, there are similarities.
Yeah.
You've got wine growing regions, and I don't know, it's just there's a lot of different scenery and landscapes. So it's very interesting to travel around both countries and see so many differences. Where a lot of smaller countries, it's mostly all the same, but with larger countries like ours and yours, you get variety.
Okay, yes, Griselda, you?
Yes, hello. When you visited Argentina, where was your favorite food? What was in Argentina?
Our favorite food?
Yes. There are a lot.
We like food and we like eating, so that's probably why we like Argentina too. But we loved, let's see, in Buenos Aires, we had one of your famous steaks, the thick steaks, with the chimichurri sauce. Yeah, that was good. And when we were at Estella's, her son had a birthday, and we had a asado, and we loved the chori pan. That was very good.
That was what I was going to ask you. What had Estela prepared for you? And she's a very good cook.
Yeah. Oh, and she taught us to make empanadas and dulce de leche. Oh, that was very good. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of good food.
Yeah, right. Yes. Now, who wants to ask? Yes, Agustin.
Hello, how are you? It's a pleasure. Well, I wanted to ask you about, what do you think about Argentinian people? I mean, our customs, the way we live here in Argentina, if you like our lifestyle.
Well, one of the biggest differences we noticed between Canada and Argentina is when you have your meals, because you eat dinner very, very late for us. So we normally have our breakfast around, I don't know, 7 in the morning. Before we're going to work. And then at lunchtime around noon, we'll have a small meal, like a sandwich or a salad or something. And then we get home from work, and then we have our big meal of the day about 6 p.m. And then that's it. We might have another little snack before we go to bed. But that was one of the, when Estella first picked us up and we went back to her place, and we were so hungry, and she said, oh yes, we'll make dinner. And she didn't start making dinner till 10 o'clock at night, and we were
starving.
We were starving. But we adjusted to it and we got used to it. But that was, I don't know, learning. That's what I really love about traveling, and learning those different ways of living that people have. And it's just a matter of, what you're used to.
But I would add too, the other thing we really liked about Argentinian people was the warmth and the way it shows in the way you greet people. There's a hug and a kiss, even for people you're just meeting the first time, and it makes you feel welcome and part of the group. In Canada, that's you might get a handshake, well, and with COVID you don't even get that, but a handshake and a hello. But it feels in Argentina, people were very warm and friendly, and it was very nice. And I like the seeing so many groups gathering in the park too to visit with friends and family and share mate. The ritual of mate
Mate, yes.
is really nice.
That's very different for us. For people to share, one mug or the straws, that's people don't do that in Canada at all. Everybody gets their own.
Um, uh, sorry, I'm having some problem with my cam. I don't know what's happening, but I can hear you. So I try
can
to
hear
solve
you.
it in the meantime. Okay. Yes, I can tell you that nowadays, and after the pandemic situation started, that habit of sharing mate is no longer possible.
Yeah.
So nowadays, everybody has their own mate, and it means in fact, we cannot share anything just because of the situation itself. So that was in old times, and in some way we miss it because mate itself is a way of socializing, and we miss it a lot. I mean, to share it with friends and with family. Well, that's one of the difference between life we used to have in the past and life we are undergoing now. Okay, sorry, I don't know what problem I have with my camera. On the same, I will go on with the interview, trying to solve it. Okay. Who's the next? Who wants to ask her another question? Yes, Lautaro.
Okay, so speaking about food, what are the most common foods in Canada?
Ooh, that's always an interesting question because Canada is a country of many immigrants. So we tend to eat like a lot of foods that came from other countries. Like there's a lot of Italian food. We have pizza and spaghetti and lasagna from Italy. We like a lot of Asian food. There's a lot of Asian restaurants, and we cook from Thailand and China.
Curries.
Curries from India. There's a lot of Indian food. There's starting to be more from Central and South America, although there's not as much as from like Italy and Asia. And then Canada also has, well, our ancestors came from Europe, from Britain. So a lot of the foods that they kind of brought with them, we still make. Like we'll have beef and potatoes, and a vegetable is sort of traditional. And we have, what are traditional foods?
Well, the other thing that happened in Canada
The native people, yeah,
is that there is a distinct French population and an English-speaking population, and most of the French culture is in the province of Quebec, and they have very traditional French dishes. So quite often people will say, "Oh, a Canadian traditional dish is like baked beans," or sugar pie is something they make too, and but that's,
Poutine.
and poutine is another, that's a hard dish to explain, but that's kind of unique to their culture, the French culture. So if you ask somebody what's a Canadian dish, you'll hear the same kind of answer. You don't find empanadas here very often, or dulce de leche. So those were things that we mentioned before, but we don't really get here.
But then there's also a large indigenous population. And so our Canadian cuisine has borrowed from their traditions, like a lot of like smoked salmon here out, especially on the West Coast. Salmon is a huge part of the indigenous diet, and we love smoked salmon. That's something that came from them, and other dishes that came from indigenous traditions. So Canada is a real mixture of food traditions.
Yes,
It's a hard
and
question to
a
answer.
mixture of nationalities as well.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew about those indigenous communities living on the west coast of Canada. Sorry, I go on having the problem with the cam. So I'm sorry about that, but I don't know what happens. I don't know how I can solve it. Well, okay, yes. Well, Mercedes, what is your question?
No.
You don't have mic? No? We cannot hear her. Okay, Dana?
Yes, hello. It's a pleasure to meet you. I would like to ask something related with you traveling around Canada. Have you visited national parks?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Canada has a lot of national parks. And when we started driving out west, you can buy a park pass. It lets you into all the parks as you go. So we've been to how many of them, especially in the west. So we're in British Columbia now, and the next province over is Alberta. And in Alberta, well, the dividing line between Alberta and British Columbia is the Rocky Mountains. And there's a lot of national parks in the Rocky Mountains. So there's Banff National Park and Jasper, Kootenay, Yoho. There's many of them. So we've driven through a lot of them and done a lot of hiking and cycling, and it's just beautiful.
So, some have campgrounds where you can park and put up a tent or a recreational vehicle, an RV, but some are just a park with hiking trails and preserving the nature. So
yeah,
they're all different, but very beautiful places.
And you can see quite a few wild animals. Like we've seen black bears and deer and mountain goats and bighorn sheep. What else have we seen? Oh, elk with big antlers. All sorts of big wildlife that you see out here. It's beautiful. We haven't seen grizzly bears yet. They're the big, very ferocious bears.
Yeah.
And we're not sure we want to see them, maybe from a distance. You have to be very careful when you're camping so that the bears don't get attracted by your food. So you have to be.
Yes, and they are very aggressive.
Yes, yeah.
Aren't they? Yes. Okay. What other countries have you visited?
Sorry?
Sorry?
Which other countries have you visited?
Which other countries?
Yes.
Well, we've done a lot of traveling before we retired because that's how we knew that we wanted to travel more. When in 2002 to 2003, we both took a year off of our jobs and we traveled around the world with our 3 children. And they were, at that time, they were age 7, 10, and 13. And we homeschooled them as we went. And we went to...
well, one thing we should say is there's this airline ticket you can buy that lets you with one, well, it's called a round the world ticket, and you can stop in many countries. So that's what we did. I think we did 26 flights. 32 flights.
Wow. That's a lot.
But you have to keep going the same direction around the world.
Like east to west or west to east.
So we headed west. We went to Mexico, Costa Rica, Ecuador, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Thailand, France, and then back to Canada.
Wow.
So
if you imagine
how old are your children?
Now
Yes.
they are 32, 29, and 25. Yeah.
Right. Yes. Okay. Emilia? Would you like to ask them?
Hi, it's a pleasure. I have a question. How long have you known each other?
Oh, we met in September 1983. So that's 38 years. We've been married for nearly 35 years. In
Wow.
next month, we have our 35-year anniversary.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a long
It's a
time.
We met when we were roommates. I was still going to school, and Kathryn had
University.
just finished school, and we were roommates. And then we started dating, and we got married after I finished school.
Okay. Yes, I can reading here that Mercedes says that now she can use her microphone. Mercedes? Mercedes? She got sent a message.
Hello.
There she is.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry. Do you listen?
Yes, we can hear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
clearly.
thank you. I want to know what activities do you choose when it comes to relaxing as a couple or individually? Maybe the music that you listen or the books that you read.
Okay. Well, Bill, we both love music. So I sing in a choir, and Bill
I
plays.
I play guitar and bass guitar or bass, and I play in a few bands. I've stopped playing since we started traveling on the road, but we would play in bars and at weddings and parties and that kind of thing.
Well, he's got a guitar with us in our van, and he still plays the guitar.
Yeah, so when I'm ready to relax or do something fun, I'll learn a new song on the guitar.
And we both love reading. I like mystery novels, and detective novels, and
I like detective novels and science fiction. So when we're trying to choose a movie to watch, usually we watch detective or mystery movies because Kathryn.
I'm not a big science fiction fan. And what else do we do? I do some crafts. I like knitting and sewing. What else do we do? Yoga.
Oh,
That's something we've started doing together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked him into doing yoga. He didn't want to do yoga, but he does it now, and it keeps us in shape. And then we like cycling. We have bikes, and we bought a bike rack to go on the back of our van so we can carry the bikes with us.
Yeah.
We did a very big bicycle trip in Portugal. We biked from Lisbon in the south all the way up the coast and into Spain. It took us 23 days. 23 days. But that was Kathryn's first long distance bicycle trip. And that's something I was doing before by myself, but now it's nice to have someone to go with.
Yes, you're very active people, according to what you're telling us. Yeah, that's great. Okay.
Well, now we have time that we're not working to do all the fun things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Gloria? Would you like to ask?
Hello.
Hi.
Here I am. Hello, hello. How are you? I heard that you commented something about drinking mate. I suppose that you haven't. Yes, you have tasted it. What was your first impression, and what do you think about mate now after that?
It's a bit bitter. That was my first impression, but then I really like it. I got used to it, and we drank it with Estella when the whole time we were staying with her, and then I bought a mate cup and the straw to take home, and Estella gave us some mate to take home with us.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yes.
yeah,
Because it is a, yes, it is a, I don't know, it is quite an experience that, yes, the mate. Yes. Okay. Thank
But
you.
yes, it's a very Argentinian thing. I've never,
Yes, yes. And besides, as you mentioned, the custom of sharing that. Yes, it is a little shocking. Well, nowadays, as Selena said, yes, we don't share any longer. We have 3 people, 3 mates. Yes.
yeah. I remember being surprised seeing people carrying the
Thermos.
well, and
Yes.
in the bags. And at first, when we got to Buenos Aires, I didn't know what people were carrying around in these bags. And then I learned that it was the thermos of hot
It
water
was that. Yes.
to make mate.
It was that. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
you kept wondering, what are they carrying?
Yeah. Everybody has purses that look the same.
Even the men.
Yes.
Yes, that's very funny.
Okay.
Right. Yes. Another question.
Guys, thank you.
Another question for, yes, Liliana. Sorry, I go on with my cam problem. I don't know what is happening. Yes, I regret being like this, but I don't know why I cannot have cam. Yes, Liliana.
Okay, right. I look at you, I consider your lives, and I really envy you in a good way. Because you seem to have been working all life, and then you seem to be living up your retirement period. And I imagine that you live on what you get as retired people. Because in Argentina, most of the pensions that you get in money is not enough to live a life like that. So is my assumption correct? I mean, are you living off on your pension, or did you have a special saving account for your, for the time that you grew old? That is one question. And the other question is if you have been vaccinated against COVID.
Yeah.
Because in Argentina, we're having difficulties in getting all the doses and all the shots that we really need to be better.
Right.
So,
So
right.
Canada is being awfully slow about vaccines, but we have appointments this week to get ours.
I go tomorrow.
Bill goes tomorrow to get his, and I get mine on Saturday. So
Your first
we're
or
very
your
excited
second?
about that.
Your first
But
dose or your
Canada,
second?
Canada has taken a strange approach of, for the vaccines that require 2 shots.
Yeah.
They're making us wait 4 months to get the second shot. And that was so more people could get their first shot. And it's a bit of an experiment to see. So, but right now about 30% of the population has had their first shot.
Which one? Which vaccine are you having?
Well, there's 3 they're doing here: the Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca. And I think we're about to start Johnson and Johnson. Or it's being approved, I think. Yeah. But those are the 3 main ones that people are getting.
Yes,
So,
and listen, in your case, did you suffer any effects?
Side effects?
Yes, side effects.
Well, we'll see when we get them, because
there is concern about the
AstraZeneca.
I haven't heard concern about the other 2.
Yeah, my mother has had the Pfizer, and my 2 sisters are nurses, and they had the Pfizer already, and they had no side effects. Another friend of mine had the AstraZeneca, and she felt sick for 1 day, but that's all I know. So yes, it's still better to get it than not.
Yeah.
So and then your other question, so if you work in Canada, if you work for the government, you probably have a pension plan. But Kathryn and I, neither of us did until the last few years. So, and there is when you get to age 60, you can take an early pension from the government. But most of our ability to retire early, because we're not 65 yet, which is the normal retirement age to get a full pension from the government. So we retired early, and mostly we were able to do that because we had a house that we owned, and we sold the house and put that money in the bank, and from the interest from that were plus our little small pensions
Small pensions.
and some savings, other savings, then that's how we're able to live. But not many people do that. Most people work till 65 or even 70, and then they can start getting a small pension from the federal government, which is money, you know, every paycheck, they take some money and put it away for you. And then later, when you get that age, you can start drawing it out.
That's a bit, there's two ways to get a government. Everybody in Canada gets a small government pension when you retire.
Not
It's
enough
called
to live on.
CPP. It's very small. And if you actually work for the federal government, then there's another pension that you get as a worker. So we never had that because we never worked for the federal government. Some major employers will offer a pension if you're a teacher, or since we both worked for a large hospital on the last few years of our career, we get a very, very small pension because we were only there for a few years. So it's a combination of the small government pension that everybody gets, and the pension from the hospital, and then mostly from our savings and investments from selling our house. So, but we're because we don't have to pay for our house and everything, we can live on a very small amount of money now. So that helps. Yeah.
So you're renting a house?
We did in the winter.
They have the contract.
But in the summer where it's warmer, we're just living in our van.
Yeah, we're camping and living in the van.
Wow.
But the van is not warm enough for the winters here because it gets very cold and snowy. So we rented a small apartment for over our winter months, which is from from October till the end of April.
Very adventurous.
Some people call us crazy.
Yes, Constanza.
Hi, nice to meet you. I'm kind of nervous because it's been a long time since I speak English. I want to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who travels to Canada? And also, as someone who dreams about traveling around the world, I want to know, how do foreigners live in Canada? In our case, Latinos and Latinas. That's my question.
Well, for traveling to Canada, Canada is like Argentina. It's very big. So Argentina is big north to south, and we're big east to west. So some people think, oh, they can go to Canada and see the whole country in 2 weeks, which you really can't do. It would be like trying to see all of Argentina in 2 weeks. There's too many different places to see. So I would advise people to just choose one area.
A province, maybe?
A province, or one province, and just sort of concentrate your travels in that area. It depends how much time you have, of course. Yeah.
But in terms of highlights?
In terms of highlights, the things to see, well,
East Coast.
So, well, there's nice places to see everywhere. Let's see. I don't know. British Columbia is very beautiful. If you love the mountains and the ocean, this is a good province to visit.
And if you want to see big wildlife, it's a good province too.
If you like cities and culture and museums and art galleries and shopping and all that, then Toronto, you might want to go to the east part where there's Toronto and Montreal and Quebec City. Those three cities are very interesting to see. There's a lot of differences there.
And then the East Coast is very quiet and beautiful, lots of fishing and
seafood,
lighthouses in the seacoast. It's very beautiful too.
Yeah, Halifax would be the city you'd want to go to there.
Do you consider an expensive place to visit? Canada, I mean, yes, in general. If you compare it with Argentina, for example.
I think it's kind of
probably
about
similar.
the same.
Yeah.
The same challenge too, which is we don't have a good train system. So you either have to rent a car and drive or fly, depending on how far you're going.
And airfares in Canada are very expensive.
That would be the expensive part, yeah.
Yeah, just traveling, across the country is very expensive.
We can fly to Europe for less than we can fly within Canada.
Yeah.
Wow.
When we lived in Ottawa, it's cheaper to fly to Europe than it is to fly to Vancouver, which is on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's why you have a van.
Exactly. That's exactly why we have a van, so we can drive, and camping can be quite inexpensive. So that's why we're doing it that way.
Are there many restrictions nowadays to do that sort of activity? Are there many restrictions to do that sort of activity? Just because of the situation?
And there are travel restrictions because of COVID between some provinces.
That's why I was asking you.
Yeah, all the Atlantic provinces, you can't visit them without isolating for 14 days. And there's a province right in the middle called Manitoba, and you can't
stop.
We drove right through because you're not allowed to stop unless you isolate for 14 days. And then the far north in Canada, those territories, you also have to isolate for 14 days if you go into them. So yes, once we got out here, then we've just stayed mostly in British Columbia where we are, because you're not supposed to be traveling all over, because that spreads it. So we've over the winter we've just stayed in a smaller area.
Okay.
Is there, can I ask you a question? Is there a difference in the exchange rate between the Canadian dollar and the American dollar?
Canadian and American?
Yeah.
Yes. Or are they the same? If you go with a Canadian dollar to the US, it's worth a Canadian. I mean, it's worth the same.
No, it fluctuates up and down. Right now, it's about 80 cents. Canadian dollar is worth less, about 80 cents to one American dollar, but it goes up and down. Lately, we've been getting a little stronger, but.
Yeah, we keep an eye on what the American dollar is worth, and then, buy American dollars when we can, when it's good for us, because it goes up and down quite a lot.
Same as here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. All right. Any other question from you? Yes. Conti.
Sorry, I'm getting comfortable. I have a question. If you watch Anne with an E, a series that is it was filmed in Canada, and then I fall in love with Canada because of that series. So I want to know if you watch it.
Sorry,
what's the series?
What's the series?
It's called Anne with an E.
Anne with an E.
Oh, Anne with an
E.
Yes.
Yes, she loves.
I love Anne of Green Gables. When I was a little girl, I read all the books and then read them all again. That was one of my favorite series of books.
And we have watched that TV series too. And we've visited Prince Edward Island, Green Gables.
Yeah, so that takes place in our province of Prince Edward Island and the Atlantic side. And we visited that province. It's very beautiful. And visited the house where Anne of Green Gables grew up. I've also, so the author who wrote all the Anne of Green Gables stories is Lucy Maud Montgomery. And I've read some of her journals were published quite a number of years ago. And I read through all her journals and I'm a big fan. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Right, okay. Yes. Any other question to Kathryn and Bill? No?
Yes, me.
Yes.
Mercedes.
Mercedes, yes.
What do your children think of the lifestyle you choose about travel and all that stuff?
It's a good
Well,
question.
Yeah, that's a good question. They're very supportive of us, and
our youngest daughter is very similar. She's involved in the tourism industry, and she spends her, before COVID, she spends her winter, our winter in New Zealand, works there, and then she comes back to Canada and works here in the summer. Our middle daughter is more a homebody. She lives in Toronto, and I think she was probably the most, not upset, but she kind of wondered, well, when I want to visit you, where will I go? And so we go visit her. But we try and get them to come and, you know, if they want to do a trip with us, we can do a trip together.
yeah.
So,
And then right now we're at our son's house. So our son who lives here and our daughter Rachel who lives fairly close by. Because we came out here for the winter, we've seen more of them over the winter than we've seen them in the last few years because they live so far away from where we were. Yeah. So we're actually seeing more of those, two of our kids now
than before.
Yeah, so okay, I think some of our family members think we're a bit crazy, but our
kids are okay.
Our kids are okay. Yeah. We won't do this forever. It's the idea is to travel while we're, you know, still healthy enough to do that. You know, because as you age, it gets harder to do that. So anyhow, my advice to all of you is if you want to travel, do it as soon as you can, because as you get older, it gets harder.
Yes, but I think it's a good advantage to be retired. I mean, retirement.
Oh, yes.
Because you have a lot of time on your hands, and then it gives you the chance to do a lot of things that probably you couldn't do while you were working. Or you have some other responsibilities, and so in some ways it's a good time in people's lives.
Yes.
It is, but we did travel when our kids were younger because Bill's parents, they always planned that when they retired, they were going to travel. And then they did retire, and Bill's mom got very sick and she died within a few years. And we thought, oh, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And they never got the chance to travel when they retired. So that's why we decided to do that big trip around the world with our kids when they were younger, because we thought, I don't know, if there's something you really want to do, you have to do it as soon as you can possibly do it, because you don't know what the future is going to bring.
That's true.
I have a question related to that. If you had to change anything about your lifestyle and your decision of traveling around, would you change anything, or would you do everything again?
For me, I would do it again.
I would do it again. Yeah.
No.
COVID has certainly made us change what we're doing, but we're still finding a way to still explore new places, but in our own country. So it's you know, it is good to see our own country as well as travel around the world. But no, I'm glad that we did retire. We retired when I turned 60, which is early retirement for Canada. But I'm glad that I did, because it just felt like the right thing to do at that time. So no, I don't think I would change that. Would you change anything? No. Okay, we're good.
Yeah.
I don't think you're crazy. I think you are very open-minded. I wish I can be like that someday. I like that.
Thank you. You're very kind.
Well, okay. Yes. Any other questions? Kathryn and Bill? Yeah? No? No? Well, okay. Listen, sorry, Kathryn and Bill, that I won't be in a ghost here, but I don't know what has happened to my camp, to tell you the truth.
That's okay.
Yes. So thank you very much for being here, for being with us, for letting us know so many things about your life in Canada and about Canada itself. Well, we hope you come to Argentina someday again and we can meet personally.
Yes, we'll definitely be back. We're not sure when, but we will come as soon as we can.
Yeah.
As soon as the borders open up.
Yeah, it was fun chatting with everybody and hearing
Yeah.
the questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's interesting because your questions make us think about things. So we appreciate them. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, meet you soon, hopefully.
Okay.
Well,
Gracias.
okay, and thank you to all of you, yes, for being here as well, for being participating in this meeting, in this interview. Thank you very much to all of you. All right.
Everybody's English is very good.
Yeah, your English is very good.
Well, okay. See you then.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. To all of you.